What is up, guys? Welcome back to another awesome video. Today we're gonna go over the killer of nations, how capitalism destroys a country's soul. Now, to establish my opinions real quick, I used to be a libertarian. Yeah, I know I caused a sin. For real though, I was a libertarian, or probably a lot more conservative libertarian, and I slowly kind of came to realize that life's not just about GDP. Life's not just about that. And, God is more important, right? I'm a Christian, and I personally believe capitalism isn't really conservative, which that's a video I want to make soon. And I am very critical towards both sides of the spectrum, from communism all the way to capitalism. However, I don't think capitalism gets the right critique. A lot of it is for the wrong reasons. That's the thing I notice. When the left attacks capitalism, it's always about oppression, social structures, or whatever. For me, what my problem with it is that, well, exactly here, it kind of destroys how a country's soul is. It kind of, if you let it grow out so far, you kind of let these companies take over, and you get these monopolies coming in. But not only that, but you also kind of destroy the social value, right? And it it just isn't really right, man. It's not really what I would say is so moral. I don't really find it so moral for pure capitalism. And I think like American type of capitalism, it's not all the way, but it's pretty far. I disagree with it. I think, I would like more of a center, like a balance between, socialist ideas and and capitalist ideas. Because, I'm with like Lavader here. I'm kind of in the mix there. I think we should go with policies that just help out the general populace than just what's going to make the biggest GDP growth, or what would be best for the market, or the best for the commune or whatever. I'm not for those interests. My interest is for my community, and for like God, right? That's kind of how I see it. Faith, family, and fatherland. That's kind of the most important to me. Let's get started though. I'm ranting on too much.
This video is brought to you by my kind Patreon supporters and channel members. If you enjoy my content and seek to take your support a step further, you can freely join my Patreon or become a channel member with several added benefits. With that out of the way, enjoy today's content. In the year 1776, a Scottish economist by the name of Adam Smith wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations, which focuses on the topic of what builds up a nation's wealth, and arguing that a nation can only reach its true economic potential if it has a completely free market without government intervention. But Smith probably never realized how his work would influence the entire world for generations to come. His work would heavily influence the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and with the Industrial Revolution came a new system that would manage the economy in this ever-changing world, and that would be capitalism. Of course, this system did not take off without its fair share of critics. In 1848, Karl Marx would publish the Communist Manifesto.
Regarding Karl Marx, I've made videos about him. I've already, critiqued communism enough, but my argument for that was just, I think, like, it's the other way around. It's kind of like how there's just too much of the extreme for capitalism. He's just the opposite, right? Like, the abolishment of money in general feels a bit like unpractical. It's just an impractical system that doesn't really work. Soviet Union was a big failure. It kind of proves that communism doesn't work. I think the extreme ends, because you never really see a pure capitalist society, but you might see a much more, extreme socialist kind of country, you know what I mean?
Strongly criticizing capitalism and giving birth to a new economic system, communism, which was meant to rival capitalist economics. And this capitalist-communist divide is strong to this day, mirroring the right versus left divide.
And I hate that divide. Like, with the left and the right, because the conservative movement was not about capitalism. It was never about capitalism. I'm a paleo-conservative. It originated with the idea of, what I just said before, family, faith, fatherland. It was about God and, family, that alone, really, right? And, a big emphasis on their country. That was kind of the ideas. It was never really about the economic system in general. It was kind of there, like, in America, it probably was a little more towards, like, with regards to protectionism too, obviously. But other than that, it was kind of this, somewhat free market, kind of that. In Europe, almost everybody was about, bigger government. I think Otto von Bismarck is a good example, right? He was very fine with a larger state, and he also had a lot of more socialistic ideas, and, like how you notice how Germany evolved. It wasn't really a capitalist society. The country was kind of, I would say, a little bit more the mix. It probably had a lot more, maybe it's like capitalist leaning in some regards, but they were still very protectionist, and I believe they still had a lot of more social, like what's that? Kind of some socialism concessions, but I'll have to do more research on, like, in Germany's, like, economy and, like, welfare, whatever. It's really hard to find because they only focus on Nazi Germany, but that's kind of what I can tell, or what I can give you.
People who identify with the right are usually in support of capitalism, while people on the
and a small government. A good government's a small government. Nah, we need the government big. That's what I want. I want a big state. And the state is led by holy people who are for God. And that's what I want. I don't want some small little, gay-ass government.
left generally identify with more market socialist economics, or communism if one goes left a bit further. But there is a certain number of people, myself included, who identify with the right-wing side of the political spectrum, yet are anti-capitalist, and are also opposed to communism as well. While
I won't say I'm anti, I would say I'm just not for that. I'm not capitalist or socialist, but I respect his opinion. Like, we're very similar on this. I think he really definitely helped me out in the alignment towards that, and that's why I'm a big fan of his channel, bro.
While I do identify myself with anti-capitalism, I believe it's important to note that my dislike for the system is nowhere as hated or exaggerated as by communists. Their claim that capitalism is the source of all evil in the world, and that every single aspect of suffering, or really anything I do not like, is because of capitalism. I am not like that. I still acknowledge all the good that capitalism has brought with it, like improving the economies of many countries, lowering poverty rates through employment, and setting the stage for a globalized economy. Or at least this is positive depending on who you ask. We're all too familiar with the arguments against capitalism made by communists, that the system is inherently oppressive against the working class and tries to suck in as much cash as possible, no matter who it may.
And if you notice, a lot of those are nuclear power plants. They don't really hurt the environment that much.
Hurt.
At least I don't believe so.
While these are valid points that could be used, I will not be focusing on these points today. Rather, I will be focusing on a different point.
A lot of damage. I wouldn't really try and have such a limit on that, but I would put more of a, like, I don't know, I would put some level of concern because I do care about the environment and, God's environment. Maybe not like with the gas, but more like just the land, the physical land a lot more.
Against capitalism, the main reason why I am opposed to it. So today, I will be giving you a criticism of capitalism from a right-wing perspective, rather than from the usual left-wing perspective we all hear too often. And since this point could
We're not like those Ben Shapiro.
Be seen as valid from a right-wing point of view, it isn't really seen as necessary from the communist side, which is why I very rarely hear it being brought up at all. Nevertheless, I will be presenting my points in this video on how capitalism is a grave danger for a nation's values and soul. When a certain company is established for the very first time, what is its main goal until the very end? It's obviously to make money and profit off of their services and sold.
And that's the big critique I have with it. It's materialistic. It's all more on the material world than anything greater, because I believe there's something beyond the material world. There's a spiritual world, right? And nothing like how they depict it in Hollywood. I'm talking like, God, right? Faith, and there's more stuff greater to that. And when you just make the priority just money, you kind of minimize what the potential can truly be. I truly believe that companies can, I think maybe not a full obligation, but in some level I do think they have a social kind of obligation for, spreading the word. At least towards my opinion. I think companies should have at least some level of obligation towards not maybe, they don't have to say they're Christian, but like, just a Christian moral code. That should be the obligation. You have this kind of Christian moral code just like anyone else. I believe that the law should be based off religion, and specifically Christianity. However, I won't try and, force it upon a Muslim. You just have to follow the laws. That's a very major difference. I would like a church and state, though. I would like a combination of the church and state, which I know a lot of people disagree with, but that's my own opinions. You can disagree in the comments. Anyways.
Goods. This is the essential core pillar capitalism is built upon. The most important thing of all is profit, and nothing else is of importance. Now, this worldview is not inherently bad in every way. If a company's sole goal and motivation is profit, this means they will try and expand their market as much as possible, hire more workers, which in turn means that more money will circle around in the country's economy and improve it long term. And if we consider market competition, companies will try their best to beat their rivals by expanding more, offering more and better goods, and so on, which just furthers the economy. It's an established fact that countries that practice capitalism tend to grow their economies much faster, which would lead to an increase in the standard of living for ordinary citizens, and more opportunities for employment, which is something libertarians and other supporters of capitalism tend to prove about the system. While I do acknowledge that capitalism usually leads to a country's economy growing, there is also a catch to all of that, a catch so big that it may just kill the nation from within. Remember when I said that the primary goal of a company is always to make profit? While it does have its pros, as I've explained, the bigger con of this worldview is exactly that. The most important thing is money and nothing else. Capitalism is inherently a system of profit, and there is no such thing as morality, common sense, or truth to it. There is only the almighty dollar. Companies will want to do everything they can to maximize their earnings, and with that I do mean everything. They don't shy away from lying to people, making false promises and not delivering on them, only if it means they will get an extra cent out of that. And this is where capitalism shines the brightest. In the majority of cases, the companies first started out small, until they started growing rapidly, whether through normal or shady means. This in the end comes to a point where these companies become too big to fail, and considering how their reach expands across the world, their failure would mean a possible world crash for that good. Think of Apple, for example, a corporation worth $2.1 trillion, and a major player in the tech industry, especially in the phone market. Imagine what would happen if Apple suddenly...
And think about this. Apple just got passed by Nvidia. Or, no, it was Nvidia just passed Google, right? In value. Just like that. In 1 year, the company Nvidia that makes computer chips, I believe mixed with AI, they made over $1 trillion in 1 year. In terms of its worth and value. Not really making like just $1 trillion alone. Just like, it became a value of $1 trillion in 1 year, which is pretty insane to think about.
Suddenly went bankrupt. this would undoubtedly be felt worldwide, which is why Apple needs to stay afloat as long as possible. Now, libertarians like to argue that these corporations only get the opportunity to grow this big and powerful because of government subsidies, especially from the US government. And this is in fact true. If it wasn't for government involvement in these corporations, they would have probably never grown this large. But this leads me to my next point on the amount of power these corporations have.
Yep. Why does the government fund these companies so much if they're supposed to be at each other? That's the answer. The lobbying. I think one really major example is Standard Oil. They funded the schools by, I believe, in today's value, in the hundreds of billions. So like 500 billion today's value. From Rockefeller. Rockefeller donated huge and boatloads amount of money to the schools. Why the schools? Did he care about the children? No. He wanted to influence these kids, and well, the system was very close to kind of a very depressing slave working. Like, how it was managed was very similar to the jobs they would work when they're adults, if they worked for Standard Oil, right? See that? So they were funding all these schools, they were taking control and influencing, and not only that, they also funded a lot of feminist movements. Why? They needed more workers, right? So they, paid for more feminists. They supported that stuff, even though in the long term it would have defeated them, which that makes another big point I have. Right now, everyone's focused on the short term, just the past 4 years, 5 years, the elections, it was politicians. We got to be looking at the long term. Not 4 years, not 5, not even 7, but 20, 30, no, 100 years. Look at the next few centuries. Let's look at the long-term effects. You know what I mean?
Lobbying is a form of advocacy with the intention of influencing decisions made by the government, by individuals, or more usually by lobby groups. It includes all attempts to influence legislators and officials, whether by other legislators, constituents, or organized groups. This procedure in a government is commonly labeled as legal corruption, due to the many ways a politician could change their stance on a certain issue by the influence of an interest group. And care to guess who approves government subsidies? That's right, it's the parliament. Corporations have the full right to lobby for bills intended to give them these subsidies. For example, in the USA, pharmaceutical companies spent around $356 million on lobbying alone in 2021, and other corporations followed their example. And if you think about it, it's basically corporations giving themselves money through this process, which they see nothing more as...
They work with the government. And did you see what happened in Twitter right before Elon Musk bought it? Literally, they were working with Joe Biden. They were in communication, which is like really scummy of what Twitter was doing. They were literally working with the government to censor people. Like, that's just insane. And this isn't some conspiracy theory. It's true, right? And yeah, Elon Musk, he's not really the best, but at least he isn't working, with cahoots with Joe Biden to create censorship campaigns. It's just like really, really freaky, man.
As an investment. In South Korea, lobbying is officially banned as it is viewed as a form of corruption. And if we look at how companies influenced government decisions and bills in order to further their own personal goals, we will see why. In 1998, Walt Disney and other parts of the entertainment industry lobbied Congress to extend the term of copyright by decades, just so they could keep the copyright to their character Mickey Mouse. Walt Disney, a private company, managed to change US law because of their own selfish desires.
I believe they even called it the Mickey Mouse Act.
And thereby hurting the public domain forever. This isn't the only example of industries intervening in the government. One time, when farmers in Nebraska were championing a right to repair their own tractors and other electronics without going to a specific repair store, big tech industries personally made sure to strike down every bill proposed through, you guessed it, lobbying. And in the end, the farmers lost because industries fight to have the government on their side. The
That's
loss of a
sad,
nation.
man. That's really upsetting. They also like work with a lot of farmers to create these GMOs sometimes. Like I noticed that even my school food, they literally put like these like soybean oil, soy lectrine, which actually is a hormone disruptor. They're literally putting like these weird chemicals filled with estrogen in the food. You know, high school, and they're giving it to all the boys. Like, and I don't know about the effects of girls. I think it's just hormone disruptors too. So they're trying to disrupt all of these kids' brains, and no wonder that we have such, retarded kids, right? Well, obviously it's not just the food. That's stupid, but the food contributes a lot. They have a lot of unhealthy food. They're given a horrible education. The entire school system is just crap. Literally, being taught crap or being given crap. And I don't want to abolish the system. The system is being ruled over by this liberal democracy system, which I used to believe democracy was this good system, but when you really look at it, liberal democracy and liberalism in general is so destructive towards a society, and it really has created this whole bureaucracy. It's really sad to see, man. I want my country back. I want it back in 1800 again, but Jesus will return. I truly believe that. That's something else. That's for another time.
Exists so that everything within the state has to follow a set of rules without exceptions in order to keep the nation stable. But here we are seeing the direct opposite happening. Instead of the industries and corporations bending to keep in line with the law is instead bending to them. And not only that, but the law will even change if a corporation sees it as necessary. This decision could have an enormous impact on everyone living there, but as long as it gets these giants a few more cents in their pockets, they don't really care. So it's no wonder why South Korea banned lobbying and classifies it as a form of corruption, because the government will always bend to the highest bidder. And even with some laws existing to root out corruption during the process of lobbying, it is still not enough. The world has been very critical of lobbying disclosure in the United States, because unregistered lobbying is a big issue. This is called shadow lobbying, where interest groups can influence public policy, like meeting with politicians and legislators, without registering as lobbyists. The number of publicly registered lobbyists in 2007 in the United States was around 14,000. By 2015, that number dropped to 11,500. But for some reason, the value stayed relatively the same. In 2007, $3.5 billion was spent on lobbying, while in 2015, around $3.21 billion. So apparently the majority of lobbyists are still there, but they are not registered. And these two examples of lobbying I have provided were disclosed to the public. Who knows what other kinds of talks and decisions have been made through industry lobbying?
And I'm sure Nikki Haley and Joe Biden know a lot about that stuff, if you know what I mean.
Without the public even knowing. Capitalism will go through desperate measures, even trying to influence government branches in order to secure as much profit as possible, bending and changing the law however they please, and no one is really doing anything about it. Politicians just have their pockets filled with lobbying money and will let industries have their way with the law however they please. We've already discussed how capitalism can influence governments for its own interest.
If you take control of all these institutions, you have so much influence, so much power, because it's not just some banking company. When it comes to all these corporations, especially with how there's Vanguard and BlackRock, they own over 30% of CNN, over 20% of the BBC, and all these other companies, I believe mostly American though, it's crazy. They own over 25% of almost every single one of the, mainstream companies, New York Times, right, the Wall Street Journal, these companies, they have so much control and propaganda. And they also influence YouTube, Twitter, you know, all the, like, Facebook, obviously, they have so much influence over all these companies, and, you know, Facebook's actually one of, also the leading ones, along with Vanguard. They just work a little bit differently there. But, back to my point, they're not really good. They're trying to destroy the conservative movement. They're trying to destroy real conservatives. They want us gone, you know, and it's really sad to see. It really is, but hey, like, I don't think this can be held up for so long, because one, they're idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They're gonna kill the country, and two, I think slowly there has been a change. And I know for myself too, because now I know a lot more of, like, truth and reality. And, you know, when I was, like, libertarian, I would see that video and, you know, I was like, yeah, no, but capitalism's essentially a good system. Yeah, there's, like, a few flaws, but the truth is, though, right, like, capitalism is not this thing that's really conservative. It's not on my team, right? These are the woke capitalists, you know, crony capitalism, right? And I think that it blends in with the liberalism. Anything to do with the liberal push, the liberalism. And I'm not just talking about Democrats. I'm talking just in general about liberalism. This idea where we need to have more freedoms and, you know, all this stuff. It's so dangerous because it's only led to worse and worse. You gotta take back the corporations. We can get them back on, you know, our side, but it will take decades of hard work, which I don't think is really gonna happen unless we really, like, get together and work together and taking over. We need to slowly rise up higher and higher, take over these institutions, you know, especially academia, because that one's a major influence on young people, and young people are a big part of the growing shift.
But if this wasn't alarming enough, we can see how capitalism can change society overall, how we think, how we feel, and how we should act, which in my opinion is the worst one of them all.
Yeah.
These industries have the ability to create myths that are all too common in everyday life. Like, for example, the myth that you should always stay hydrated and drink as much water as possible.
Oh yeah, bro, plastic water, microplastics. I've avoided the water bottles for over a year now. I always knew. Before this video came out, I'm pretty sure... Wait, how was this video? It's like a year... Yeah, like somewhere around this when this video was uploaded. Bro, I knew about this stuff, about the microplastics. And guess what? People thought I was crazy. My own dad thought I was probably a little bit mad, right? And he's like an elder in a church, right? And I was correct. I was right. I was right. You know, this was seen as like an Alex Jones conspiracy theory a year ago, but now, like, people are waking up to it. And, you know, Lavader also called it, is he gonna talk about the microplastics?
Myth became so widespread because beverage companies kept drowning people in ads which depict dehydration as a major health issue, for the simple reason that they want us to drink more and by that, buy more of their products. But it can get even worse.
Oh, why didn't you mention the microplastics? Come on! I know you better than that. Or, I don't really know you that well. But back to my point. Yeah, like, it's obvious they want to try and weaken our society. They want to try and demoralize us. They're trying to feminize men, because if you get weak men, you get good consumers, right? They want to put us in chains. Maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but that's kind of how I see it. Just tiny bit.
For example, it's a common quote-unquote fact that the main cause of weight gain is fat, and that if one wants to go on a diet, they need to eat low-fat food. But the reality is that sugar makes people gain more weight than fat does, and these low-fat foods can actually make you gain weight.
My friend, he actually told me about this. He said, it's not just fats, it's about sugar. You gotta lay out the sugar, and that's the real thing. And now we have fat people who think, oh, no, it's just genetics. No, like, no, because you won't lay off the sugar.
because they contain a lot of sugar. For years, these companies bribed researchers to make quote-unquote scientific papers saying how fat...
One more thing, they literally pay scientists. Like, how much of scumbags can you be when you do that? Remember from that, was that one video from Pegasus where literally there was like Vox or one of these companies that were saying how like, you know, meat isn't exactly, you know, like meat's not good, you know, you gotta go vegan or something like that. That's healthier. And they also showed how they put cereal higher rank in health than eggs. It was from not from Vox. It was another like research company, but they were literally being lobbied. They showed their sponsorship to have like Dairy Queen, McDonald's. It's all the fast food groups, man.
Fat makes you gain more weight while silencing anyone who says otherwise. And there are many more myths like this. They weren't designed to keep us healthy and in shape, but rather they are a capitalist invention designed to squeeze out as much money from you as possible. They don't care whether something is healthy or not. They are even willing to bribe scientists to say their products are healthy in order to gain even more profit. Most of us are aware of today's woke culture in the entertainment industry. Cable channels pushing their agenda in kids shows, as well as numerous other animated movies and shows. And generally, conservative-minded people obviously do not like the fact that their kids are getting brainwashed by the media like that. But do you know what the source of this woke culture in media is?
By the way, I do not want to talk about Hollywood. We already know that enough. Hollywood's just crap, man.
There is one company the majority of you probably never heard of, BlackRock.
Yeah.
BlackRock is an investment management company and is a company that has the reputation of quite literally controlling the world. They own major shares in so many industries.
Yeah, fun fact, they were called the fourth branch of government.
And are worth around 10 trillion US dollars. Yes, trillion, which is half of the United States GDP. The rabbit hole with BlackRock goes very deep and deserves a video of its own. I would highly recommend watching the video BlackRock, the most evil business in the world by fellow content creator Moon.
Man, I remember seeing that video.
As it also proves many of my previous points in this
I remember when that video just came out, bro.
video. I will leave a link to the video down in the description. So what does BlackRock have to do with all this? Considering the fact that they own many shares in so many industries, many companies heavily rely on BlackRock's investments in order to stay afloat. Even many major companies like Disney. In 2018, the CEO of BlackRock announced that companies need to contribute to society, or they would risk losing BlackRock's investments. And I think you can already guess what BlackRock means by contributing to society. And since the entertainment industry is run by the most ruthless executives in modern history, they were more than happy to comply with BlackRock. This is why so many companies started going woke and political all of a sudden, pushing this agenda. These companies are practically all under the thumb of a larger trillion-dollar worth private company. And if they step one bit out of line, it is game over for them. By controlling the entertainment and news industry, BlackRock also gets to control the minds of the younger generations, practically brainwashing them with the woke agenda, and thereby contributing to the destruction of nations and societies. I will make this very clear. I do not care how much the economy will improve from all of this. A private company should never, ever have this much power and influence in shaping our society.
Yeah, and that's why, man, you gotta take back power, right? Like, so many of these, like, Republicans, right? They're not willing to grab power. They're not willing to do anything. If they get voted in, they just cut some taxes and just leave with their money, right? These parties just suck, man. They literally are soul-sucking. They don't do anything. The Republicans, you can make an argument of them being even worse than Democrats, because Republicans are supposed to represent the conservative movement, something actually holy and worth of value. But these Republicans are so horrible. So many of them are just so trash that you just say, who cares, right? You know, I like Trump, but I also gotta admit, He's mistaken in a lot of things, and I think that he deserves the criticism for that. However, I think Trump's kind of what we got for now. I like his policies. I don't want to go too much into that, but at least he's like willing to grab power. At least he's willing to do those, take back and go up against these groups. At least he's brave enough, right? That's what I like about Trump. He's actually brave enough to go up against these. Name a Republican as brave as Trump. I'm gonna wait for quite a while.
Companies and corporations are willing to lie to people, filling their minds with false ideas in order to buy their products. They are brainwashing an entire generation, leading them astray from national and family values, and thereby endangering the very foundations a country is built upon. They don't care about culture, religion, or really any form of values. They are more than willing to use their influence to transform people into mindless consumerist zombies with no sense of identity but their own brand. All for what? As long as they will heavily profit from all of this, they are willing to lend a hand in burning down a country and its values.
Mass consumerism.
As I've previously stated, I do acknowledge that capitalism is good for a nation's economy, but on the other hand, it will also be the downfall of the nation culturally and socially if it grows too big and too unregulated. And personally, I believe a nation that upholds national and family values and guarantees that nothing will harm them is much richer than a country that has a booming economy, but its only sense of identity is.
I don't want to be rich in the physical wealth. I want to be rich in the kingdom of heaven. That's what I want. I want to be rich. Rich as hell. No, not even that. I want to be rich as ever. The greatest in the kingdom of heaven. That's what I really want. All this physical wealth around us, this is temporary. This is temporary. God is forever. This is forever, right? This whole material world, it's not gonna last. America's already falling apart. But guess what? Once the return happens, which so many people forget already. I'll have to talk about that soon in the future, but the spiritual world, the kingdom of heaven, when that all comes in, that will truly be beautiful, man. To see, to witness. That will truly be beautiful.
Is mindless consumerism and nothing else. Now, I am not saying that consumerism is inherently evil. At the end of the day, we all still consume media like the latest movies, play the latest video games.
That's true. Mass consumerism is such a big problem, however. It's fine with consuming some stuff, but just this whole idea of celebrity worship and mass consumerism, and one night stands. All this stuff is just what's going on in the moment. It's not it's just so mindless. You're a zombie when you do that.
And so on. There is nothing really wrong with that. But it's an entirely different story when your entire identity revolves around the consumerist culture and you don't value your fatherland or your national identity, but completely disregard them. And companies will always strive to make people embrace this zombie consumerist culture because it is just much more profitable. Capitalism has no national allegiance, no sense of national identity or purpose. Its only interest is making as much money as possible. That's why capitalism has absolutely no problem suddenly switching to another side if they see more means on how they can exploit that group for profit.
As soon as we take power, right? As soon as we're able to take power, and although all the corporations, they can be easily destroyed, we're actually on your side the whole time. That's what they're gonna say. If we ever take power, I'm calling it. All the companies are gonna side with us, and they're gonna talk about how they've always been about Christian values, and I'm gonna say, hell nah, you're getting out of here. You don't belong here, right? We only want good companies that are going to be actually with Christ. We don't want you, Walmart. We don't want you, Walmart. Get out of here, Walmart. We know what you did during COVID, right? You got all the money from the government. You bought all those small little neighborhoods. BLM helped you out. You're all with the black squares. Yeah, we know you're always about Walmart. We're gonna cancel you. We're gonna cancel you back.
Which is why we see the woke agenda everywhere in the Western world. And by promoting and supporting these ideas, companies are killing the nation from within by influencing the younger generation on how they should think and act. This is the reason why I am against capitalism. Not necessarily because of the whole workers of the world unite ideology that communism propagates, but rather because I see it as a threat to a nation's culture and values. At any moment can capitalism completely turn on the nation and destroy it from within. Which is why I believe that companies should be very well regulated so they cannot do whatever they want. Let these industries know exactly what kind of nation they are, and that the country will not just let them do everything and spread around lies for marketing purposes or else. The state should never serve the capital, but rather the capital should serve the state.
Yo, this was an awesome video. Highly recommend. Loved it. No, you're getting like Lavader. And I'm subscribed. This is just another account. Let's read some of the comments, man. I want to read some of the comments. One of the most overlooked quotes from The Wealth of Nations is Smith's warning against the frequent collusion of merchants to detriment of the public. It's one thing when private companies have a huge say in government and its economy. It's another when they begin to literally shape society and culture to cater to whatever flavor of consumerism helps out and to get that extra cent. Very rare to see a right-winger properly scrutinize the shortfall of free market. Exactly! You're getting like, exactly, that's 100% true. And you have Ben Shapiro that always talks about how we need to be even more with the capitalistic idea, right? This whole sellout, this channel's a sellout, you know what I mean? I'll talk about PragerU another time. I'm getting off topic. The point is, PragerU has a lot of videos where they, talk about why capitalism is the greatest system ever, capitalism this, capitalism that, Ben Shapiro, free market, marketplace of ideas, all of this stuff. This is not the approach. PragerU is wrong, Ben Shapiro's wrong, Jordan Peterson is wrong, they're all wrong. What we need is God, what we need is something more holy than just picking these kinds of systems. Who cares, right? Pick a system that works, that will work for our country, not just what helps us in our GDP development growth. You know what I mean? There's more to it. It's really disappointing. I used to love Daily Wire. I might still occasionally watch them, but Daily Wire's so wrong in so many ways, and that's the thing we have to really see. I would recommend John Doyle if you have very similar opinions towards me. If you disagree with me, please comment down below. Let's have a friendly discussion. I don't want to, say you're all evil. I don't hate anyone. I'm not really trying to put an attack. I don't hate PragerU or Ben Shapiro. I think they're just, misguided. But anyways, I will see you later. Thank you so much for watching, and Bennett out.